All right, every Monday we do a deep dive into what your elected officials have been up to. And the Iowa legislative session is scheduled to end next week, but a lot needs to happen before then. Here to help break things down for us is Dana Seals of our sister station, WOI in Des Moines. All right, Dana, let's start with the big priority that Republicans have been focusing on, not only this year, but for the past couple years. Property tax reform. Last week, the Senate passed their proposal. So what is the House and the governor proposing, and how far apart is everyone?
Yeah, so Shelby, this Senate proposal and the Senate actually passing their proposal is pretty significant because theirs is the proposal that is quite different compared to Governor Reynolds and House Republicans' proposal. So it's all stayed the same since we last talked for the most part. So Senate Republicans are still proposing that income cap growth to be set or to be tied with inflation, or the revenue growth, I should say. They're still proposing for that to be tied to inflation, while House Republicans and Governor Reynolds still have their bill tied at a 2% cap on revenue growth when it comes to your property taxes. So that's why this move by the Senate is pretty significant, because theirs is the one that is quite different. So it actually passed in a vote of 41-4, which shows it does have bipartisan support in the Senate. On the Senate floor during debate, Senate Democrats came and spoke, and they said, you know, we feel like this is the best bill that we have seen all legislative session. They said that they were able to have input in this bill and what's inside of it. So that's why this is so significant, because it has that bipartisan support. So the biggest difference in the Senate's plan and the House's plan is that the Senate's plan would eliminate Iowa's decades-old rollback system, which essentially limits a home's taxable value. And what it would do is it would replace it with a 50% tax exemption on homes valued up to $350,000. Another thing that the Senate's bill is it does shift K through 12 education costs actually into the state's general budget instead of in property taxes. So this would allow school districts to actually readjust their property tax levies. But I want to note that this is the first property tax bill that we have seen go through, or at least even make it to a floor vote in 2 legislative sessions. So that's why it's so significant. We have not seen a property tax bill make it to either the House or the Senate floor in 2 legislative sessions. And the fact that this did pass with such strong bipartisan support, it'll be interesting to see what those discussions look like going forward. But again, it's a massive priority for the GOP. And with next Tuesday being the last day of the legislative session, at least the last calendar day, lawmakers can still work farther without pay. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how fast these changes are made to the Senate proposal that is now in the House.
I want to come back to a property issue in just a moment, but first, let's talk about a bill that Governor Reynolds did sign into law last week. This makes all of Iowa's daycare workers eligible for a child care assistance program. What's going on here?
Yeah, so this bill saw strong support from both parties, both Republicans and Democrats, and moved through the legislature pretty easily, I would say, compared to, you know, what we've seen in the past. But the overall goal is to help retain and recruit childcare and daycare workers in the state. So what it would do is it would make daycare workers in Iowa eligible for the Child Care Assistance Program, which that program basically help support funding for childcare for kids up to the age of 13. And what it would do for these daycare workers is it would allow them to be eligible for the Child Care Assistance Program despite their income level. So the Child Care Assistance Program is tied to your income level and your family income and how much you're making every year. Whereas now for these daycare workers, it would not matter what their income is. They would be eligible for funding from the state to help with childcare for kids up to the age of 18.
Before I let you go, I want to go back to property rights, because eminent domain has been a huge conversation for years now. I mean, last year the Senate and the House had to stay in overtime to pass an eminent domain bill that was ultimately vetoed by Governor Reynolds. But this session we haven't really seen a ton of movement. What's happening when it comes to eminent domain?
Well, you might remember we talked about this way at the very beginning of the session in January. The House actually fast-tracked this bill that would basically protect property rights from eminent domain, specifically for carbon capture pipelines. So the House fast-tracked that bill, saw strong support. The House has really never been the issue in terms of passing this bill. We've seen that consistently. But then it went over to the Senate within a week or 2 of the legislative session this year, and we have not seen any movement since. So we did ask Senate Republicans, Senate Majority Leader Mike Clemish, about what's happening, what's going on, because earlier this week there was a group of people at the State House advocating for property rights. So it's still very much front of mind. And I want to read part of the quote that we got from Senator Clemish about where these conversations stand. He said that conversations conversations on property rights are still ongoing in the Senate. He adds that I've been very clear on my position on this issue this year. I want to have discussions on energy development and the best path forward for our state. So he is saying these conversations are going around. That's kind of what we've been hearing since day one, or since that bill first got to the Senate. But it will be interesting to see what happens when it does come to passing things like the state budget, because that's why I wanted to bring it up ultimately, is this is what it came down to last year, is if they could get enough support from senators to vote for this property rights bill, then they would all vote on the state budget. So since that is such a big, a hot topic, a priority, a lot of people have brought up the past few legislative sessions, it'll be interesting to see how that is used in this final week of the calendar legislative session. So do want to add that again. Next Tuesday is the final calendar day of the legislative session. However, that just means that that's when lawmakers are paid until. They will work without pay past that, if that means getting some more of their priorities across the finish line, which we are expecting to see, considering Governor Reynolds' last session in her office. And you never know what could happen with the governor's race. So we'll see a lot of priorities be passed through within the next week or few here.
Yeah, I have a feeling next Monday is going to be very busy. We'll have a lot to talk about. Dana, as always, thank you so much for your time. And for you guys at home, we have our political coverage for both states up on our website. Just click on the As Seen on TV tab at the top of the homepage.